my goodness, what a week it has been. Welcome inside the Tall Can Audio Podcast. As always, Matt Robinson along with you here today. Give us a follow on social media at Tall Can Audio. Subscribe to the pod wherever you're hearing us right now. We have the NHL season fully underway, and as many of you have taken to reminding me in our various feedback places and social media feeds and whatnot, the Blue Jays are still a thing. They are moving on to the American League Championship Series starting on Sunday. Some of you taking the opportunity to point out, I guess, that I have chosen to stop talking about them at the worst possible moment. I assure you that's not what's happening. We'll get into all of it here. Look, no change on the beer front. I tried this one earlier in the week. This is from Collective Arts down in Hamilton called Life in the Clouds. And look, it felt appropriate once again, given where the Blue Jays stand. I could not believe what I watched on Wednesday night as the Blue Jays took down the Yankees, and yet it should have been completely believable. The Blue Jays were the best team in the American League for a huge stretch of the season. They kicked the shit out of the Yankees for most of the regular season, kicked the shit out of them in games 1 and 2. And all of a sudden they lose in Game 3, and people get a little nervous again. And on Thursday, to watch them finish off a tight, more traditional playoff-style game, I'm going through the 9th inning, and there's the Hoffman of it all. Look, we can talk about it, but I'm sort of in disbelief at... Like, I fully believed, obviously, that the Blue Jays would win playoff rounds again, maybe more World Series, but there was just something so different about watching them beat the New York Yankees at Yankee Stadium in October. We have never seen that before. So there was something surreal about it, and we can talk about it all. But as it pertains to the beer, I sort of felt like this is life in the clouds, and I sort of used that, I was going to say pun, it's not a pun, wordplay or whatever earlier in the week or last week or whenever it was. And someone took me to task saying there's no such thing as life in the clouds, which isn't true. I'm holding it right here in a can. It's cold. It's delicious. This is life in the clouds. But I was, I guess, being reminded that this is, or the expression is, I've got my head in the clouds. And I don't even know if that so much means happiness as much as you're just sort of out here doing your own thing and you're not necessarily paying attention to what's going on in the world. But life in the clouds is sort of how I've been feeling about the Blue Jays. So to hell with it. I'm using it again, even if I'm using it incorrectly. That is nothing new around this particular show. Look, if you've missed it earlier in the week, we don't do this often. I think this is our 5th episode of the week. We have had something every day this week, which is unusual. But to tee it up on Monday, if you missed it, look, some of the baseball stuff, which was at the end, is now a little out of date. But lots of talk about some big signings around the National Hockey League, major schedule changes coming to the PWHL, certainly taking the Red Blacks to task after another disastrous season in the CFL. So that dropped on Monday, and then I was scheduled to record Monday afternoon with our buddy Graham Nichols from the Hockey News and Coming in Hot. And at the time that we were getting ready to speak is when the McDavid news dropped. And so before we did the Senators season preview, which was going to drop later, we threw down just 10 or so minutes on McDavid. Wednesday, our buddy Jeff Vayette was here to tee up the Leafs season just before they opened up their year against the Montreal Canadiens with a tidy little 5-2 victory, in which I'm told, and we can talk about this, I'm told they didn't look all that convincing, all that good, but good enough to beat Montreal, so you'll take it. And then on Thursday, that episode, that Sens season preview with Graham Nichols dropped. And that was on the morning of them getting ready to play the Tampa Bay Lightning to kick off their year. I'll be real with you. I'm recording this at about 6:30 p.m., on Thursday, so I don't know how that Sens Lightning game has panned out. I will sit down. I will watch it. I'm intrigued to see, frankly, what both of these teams look like to start the year, as they're both division rivals, and that should be a good one. But it's been a busy week, and we have arrived here on Friday. And look, I'm going to talk about the Jays a little bit here in a second, but I sort of wanted to tee up what's to come over the next, well, less than a week, but the next several days, because we are going into a bit of a speed wobble. And I was already having an issue, as we often do, and we've talked about this before, coming out of a long weekend. And some long weekends are different than others, right? The civic holiday in August, or Family Day, or whatever. These sort of made up. I know people bristle at the idea that I'm calling Family Day made up, but it is. It's within like the last 10 or 12 years. We just decided we needed a holiday, and we wanted to not just make it another civic holiday, so we had to give it a name. We settled on Family Day. It's a nice thought, but a lot of people just take it as the day off, and it has nothing to do with their families. Point being, during some of these long weekends, it's much easier to get guests than others. So Rob is away this long weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, doing actual family things. Thanksgiving is a time where families do get together. And so he's going to be doing that. And so I've sort of been kicking around, okay, it's going to be a challenge here to find a guest to do whether or not we record it on Sunday and drop it on Monday. And or often, as you know, we'll record on Monday and drop it on Tuesday, which is the start of the business week, right? Coming out of the Thanksgiving weekend, everybody back to work. But all our usual guests, like, I feel bad reaching out to on a Thanksgiving, right? Asking people, hey, what time might you be home from your family thing? Are you a Sunday guy or a Monday guy? When might you have time for us? And so that's always a thing on Thanksgiving weekend. And then stack on top of it this year that the Blue Jays are in the ALCS. So you're talking about that will start. We don't know yet, as I sit here and speak right now, whether you're playing the Tigers or the Mariners. But either way, that will start on Sunday night. And then depending on who's who and who wins and who gets through in the National League, we don't know whether the Monday game will be Monday afternoon or Monday evening. So now, even if you do want to reach out to one of our usual guests and say, hey, you know, do you have time around your Thanksgiving to come in and do the show? They're like, I might be able to make it work. What time are you thinking? You're like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know yet what time the Jays game is going to be. It makes no sense to record on Sunday afternoon before game one, because that show is going to be stale before it even gets out the door. You could record on Monday in theory, I guess. If you end up with the afternoon slot, you could record Monday night. But there was just too many things in the air. So you know what? We're just not going to bother. I'm telling you right now, there will not be our usual start of the week show on Monday morning or Tuesday morning. But there will be a couple of things in place instead. We are going to do a rare Saturday episode of the show, and I'm looking forward to this one. I think you will too, especially if you're somebody who is maybe being dragged off to the in-laws or, God forbid, you're hosting the in-laws, and maybe you're looking for something to get away. Like, some people go away for the entire Thanksgiving weekend. Some people are lucky enough to enjoy their in-laws. But maybe you're just having them for the meal and nothing else. On Saturday, I'm going to speak to Joshua Howsam. Now, a lot of you on Blue Jays Twitter specifically, and who drift around in the Blue Jays podcast space, will know that name. He and Greg Wisniewski, for a long time, did a podcast that I don't know who came up with the name, but I thought the name was clever, called Artificial Turf Wars. And it was a Blue Jays podcast, and Josh was on that for quite a while. I don't know the reason why he stopped doing that podcast. Maybe we'll get into it when he's on the show. Probably not. There's enough baseball-specific stuff to speak about. He's no longer on that show, but he is still very prominent on Blue Jays Twitter. Has a big following there, and he's a really insightful guy. I really like most of his takes, and he's one of these guys, kind of like Stoughton, kind of like Nick Ashbourne, like some of these guys who really know what they're looking at and are able to comment on it from outside the Rogers sphere. And this is a whole thing that we don't have to get into. I'm not saying that the Sportsnet guys can't be trusted. Certainly I'm not. I'm just saying they have a boss. We all know how the world works. And in this country, a lot of the people following the Blue Jays have that corporate umbrella thing going on. And Joshua, like Stoughton, is one of those guys who does not. And so when it's called for, he can be pretty critical. When it's called for, he can be very complimentary. If you're not following him on Twitter, you should be, if you're a Jays fan. It's like I said, it's at Joshua Housem. If you just click onto our feed at Tall Can Audio, you don't have to go far right now with all the Blue Jays news going on to find that I've retweeted something of his, and you'll see the handle right there. But he will be here on Saturday, and he doesn't do many of these anymore. He enjoyed doing his own show. I remember speaking to him in the early days of our show, asking if he'd come on back then, and we didn't have much of a reputation then. We hadn't done a whole lot. We were like a year into it. Nobody was listening at the point. And he politely declined and said, not only do I, not really do other shows, but I don't even really listen to other shows, because he didn't like the idea of being influenced by other people's takes before doing his own show. For whatever reason, that always stuck with me. Like, I thought that was interesting. At the time, to be honest with you, I thought it was a little over the top. But the longer I've gone on doing this show, I do sort of find myself going, yeah, you know what? That makes sense. Sometimes it's better to come in and react to news or a subject or whatever's going on just with your own first take. It's more yours before you read this and check in over here and have gotten a few different opinions. And now it's not necessarily a bad thing that you've been swayed, especially if you've been educated. Like, if you've read smart takes on both sides, I think that's okay. It can either confirm your opinion or make you go, wow, I should probably give that another look or give that a second thought. But I wasn't there at the time. And so like I said, at the time, I thought it might have been a little over the top. But the longer I've done this show, the more I kind of go, yeah, you know what? It's pretty smart, a pretty smart way to go about it. But anyway, I don't even remember how we ended up down this road other than talking about him. I've followed him on Twitter for a long time. I've always enjoyed his takes. And for whatever reason, I just never circled back, right? Like, he had politely declined. We're talking like 8 years ago. And so you take that and go, okay. You don't bug people. You don't circle back and go, how about now? Is today good? Have you changed your mind? You just kind of leave people alone. But we've been going back and forth a little bit more during this playoff run that the Blue Jays have been on, and I reached out and said, you're not doing your own show anymore. How about jumping on ours for a chat? And he said, yeah, all right. So that's cool. We're going to do that on Saturday. And I should say, maybe it doesn't matter, but if you're going to go ahead of time, some people do, right? Like, you talk somebody up, say they got smart takes, and you give the name of their show. Artificial Turf Wars is still going on. Neither Joshua nor his original co-host Greg are still a part of it. Now, I only say that so that if you go looking for Artificial Turf Wars, on my recommendation, you know that it's no longer, that show still exists, but he's no longer on it. That's not meant to be advice to not go listen to it. It's not a comment on the quality of it. I don't know the new guy who is doing it under that handle. I don't understand, like I said, I'm not familiar with what the circumstances were for the handoff or the change or why Greg and Joshua stepped away and how the current host took a hold of it. I'm just saying the show still exists, but it's no longer with Joshua. That's the extent of my knowledge. So on Saturday, Joshua and I are going to chat. And the reason we're waiting for Saturday, because this is unusual, we don't typically do this, especially on a long weekend, but we don't know who the Blue Jays are going to play yet. So we sort of talked about, we could do this on Thursday in the immediate aftermath of the Blue Jays knocking off the Yankees, or we can wait and until we actually have an opponent. And the Mariners and the Tigers are not playing until Friday night. So we decided, let's just wait. And it does sort of bridge the gap a little bit, right? If we're not going to have a show on Monday morning and we're really not even going to have a show on Tuesday morning, at least we will have this on Saturday to kind of bridge the gap for Tall Can Audio listeners, perhaps provide a little refuge for people looking to escape for an hour from their in-laws and whatever. You'll have our tee-up of the ALCS to listen to. And then after games 1 and 2 have been played on Sunday night and Monday night, Steve Bunda is going to come in here in the very early afternoon on Tuesday. So like I said, we won't be here first thing Tuesday morning like we normally are. But Bunda will be in studio very early Tuesday afternoon. As soon as that's done, we will post it. And that will have everything that your typical start of the week will normally have had, including results from the first week or so, weekend of NHL action. The Sens will have wrapped up that little trip through Florida. The Leafs will have had another game or two on both the Leafs and the Sens playing during the afternoon on Thanksgiving weekend. I like that. I know it's not uncommon for the Senators to play afternoon games on holidays. It is quite uncommon for the Leafs, but I don't dislike it. Now, we'll see. As I said, we don't know yet whether the Jays game on Monday will be an afternoon game or an evening game. That could be irritating if they both end up as 4 o'clock starts, especially if you're going to one of them in the downtown core in Toronto. Both will be in Toronto. Obviously, Scotiabank Arena and the Rogers Centre just a couple blocks apart. God love you if you're trying to make your way down on the subway or through Union Station off GO Transit. That would be a fucking nightmare. Point being, we will do that sort of circle back week in review early Tuesday afternoon with Steve Bunda, and we'll be able to move forward from there. So that was an incredibly long-winded, probably overly explanatory way of laying out what's to come here over the next few days. But I did want to sort of give you the background on why things are going to be a bit off kilter here, between not knowing the Blue Jays schedule, between Rob being away because it's Thanksgiving weekend, because of me not wanting to bother our usual guests and friends on their Thanksgiving weekend. There was just a lot of stuff in the air that was going to make this really difficult to navigate through a usual Sunday or Monday recording time. So I just said to hell with it. Let's not even try. We will give you a tee-up of the ALCS on Saturday with Joshua Howsam. You can check that out later on Saturday or on Sunday, getting ready for the game. On the drive up to wherever you might be going for your Thanksgiving dinner. That's the way this is going to play out to tee that up. And then we will let games 1 and 2 happen. And then Bunda will be in here on Tuesday for all kinds of hockey and football and baseball talk and post-Thanksgiving shenanigans. So that's what we're going to do here. So I hope you'll stick around for all of that. I'm looking forward to it, honestly. Sometimes, look, we're spending a lot of time here on things that aren't sports. If you're somebody doing a show like this, you guys have probably noticed, from time to time, I get a little lazy when it comes to reaching out to new guests. And there was a time, mainly during the pandemic, that I was reaching out to new people constantly. But it's not really in my nature. I wouldn't say I'm shy, certainly. But I am a little introverted. And so for the longest time, the show was Rob and I and an occasional guest, a couple per year, and that would be that. And then all of a sudden, the pandemic sets in. Rob's not a tech guy, so getting him to do the show frequently online was a challenge. And if this thing was going to keep going, we needed guests. We needed interviews. We needed people who were going to be brought in. And that forced me outside my comfort zone a little bit to start reaching out to people. And that's when we made a bunch of these connections. First of all, with the local guys that we got to know, with Creech and Bunda and AJ and certainly Dean Brown, and Schreids was a regular through that period quite a bit. Like, she ended up doing a show per week with us here for a while. But you sort of take some bigger swings because you don't have a choice. And all of a sudden, Elliot Friedman's here, and James Duthie's here, and Bob McKenzie's here, and Dan Schulman's here, and things like that. And so as the show goes on, you just sort of settle in with like, well, I have enough contacts that I can sprinkle these people in throughout the year, and I don't have to keep reaching out to new people, which, as I mentioned, makes me a little uncomfortable. I'm not good at it. And so, consequently, I think it's a positive and a negative. I think our listeners get to know and get to like our regular guests and the rotation of people that we have. But I tend to slack sometimes on reaching out to new people. There's got to be something that shocks me into or pushes me into doing it, a new book or an event that's taking place or something like that, right? So I'm looking forward to this one with Joshua Housem, a guy, like I said, his opinions on the Jays, I quite enjoy. I like his insights quite a bit. And so the fact that we're able to get that done during a very busy time in the baseball calendar, and that's such an important time in the Blue Jays calendar, I'm excited for this one. I hope you'll check it out over the course of the long weekend and then stick around until Tuesday afternoon with Steve Bunda. That's enough about the show. We're talking too much about the show, clearly, and not enough about, well, what the show is supposed to be about. Look, Thursday was unbelievable, and I'm not going to take you through pitch by pitch and inning by inning, but if we're being fair to John Schneider, because a lot of people have been hard on him over the year, and I'm not really certain why. This is something that's been debated on this show quite a bit. I don't really understand what the animus is towards John Schneider. But if we're being fair to the guy, Wednesday night was a masterclass in terms of knowing how I want to line this up, but not being married to it. It was quite clear we're just going to use our best leverage guys every time the top of the lineup comes up. And more clearly, every time Aaron Judge comes up. And if that means we see Sir Anthony Dominguez in the third inning, fucking so be it. Yeah, you've burned him and it's done and he's done for the night, but he did the job. I really appreciated the way they let Eric Lauer handle the top of the Eric Lauer, the top of the hour. Too sweet to be sour. The top of the order. That was a good time with nobody on. Just walk Judge. Fuck it. Just walk him. And there's been some talk about this on the Yankee side of things since the game, that this thing that they did to stagger their lineup all the way down, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, trying to create a nightmare for the Blue Jays. And in theory, it does. In tight situations, it does. But with this new 3-batter rule, you almost allow the Jays to set themselves up to be in charge all the way through. The Jays get to choose when they're bringing in, let's say, a lefty, like Eric Lauer. So they'll wait and they'll bring him in to face a lefty. And then, yeah, there is a righty right behind him in the lineup. But then there's another lefty. Like at some point, maybe you'd have been better off going lefty, righty, righty. And that forces them to bring in a lefty to get this lefty right here. You know, let's say it's Cody Bellinger. And then he has to stay for 2 righties. Or he's got to get the out to get out of the inning and make a change or something like that. By staggering it the way they did, lefty, righty, all the way down, you let the Blue Jays choose, okay, when do we want to have this guy face 2 out of 3 lefties or 2 out of 3 righties? We'll never know whether it would have been any different. But at the end of the day, John Schneider mastered this, and he navigated his way through it quite clearly. And that Eric Lauer moment that I'm talking about, if you've forgotten, he faces Grisham, and then they just fucking walk Aaron Judge. Get the hell out of here. And frankly, I'd have been fine if they'd have just done that. After the way this series had gone, they should have just walked him every goddamn at bat. And I know that sounds silly, and it is a little bit hyperbolic. I understand. But the guy hit 600 in the series, and nobody else did shit. So stop letting him, and he didn't burn you a ton with power, although when he did, he really, really scorched you. But just put him on and force somebody else to beat you. Because for the most part, nobody else was going to do it. But in this case, he gets Grisham, and then he walks Judge, and then he gets Bellinger. And that's exactly the way they should have handled that. And it was smart to let Lauer stick around a little bit longer after how good he'd been all year for you. And there's a bunch of names like this. I saw people tweeting about this quite correctly. Where is this team without Eric Lauer? You think of how long Max Scherzer was out during the regular season, right? Like, you think about some of the injuries, and Eric Lauer gave you great innings. And look, it was time. I didn't have a huge problem with it when they moved him to the bullpen. I was a little confused from time to time about his usage after that. But then he comes in some big spots, even down the stretch. They had that bullpen game against Boston in the last week of the season. He gave you length out of that. I think 11 straight outs. There was no reason not to trust him in that situation again. And after that, look, Hoffman, I was as nervous as everybody else when he came in, and he didn't do much to cool my anxiety, right, as we worked our way through that. He wasn't pounding the strike zone. He did give up some contact. He did give up a run. I don't feel any more confident in him now, even though he did get the win, like protect the win and get you out of there, than I did before. I have all the same questions, all the same concerns that day to day, I don't know what he's going to give you. But on that day, he did the job you needed him to do, and all of a sudden, the fucking Blue Jays are moving on. And they're just, like, these things kept being brought up on the broadcast, and they should have been. Dalton Varsho had an incredible series. Ernie Clement was, like, how many Yankee fans do you think were sitting there going, who the fuck is Ernie Clement in game 1? And by game 4 going, the same way I'm talking about Judge, just walk him. He's getting a hit every at bat. So many performances like that throughout. Obviously, Vladdy, right, who outdueled Aaron Judge. They're different types of hitters, but Vladdy was the better player and certainly the more clutch player. Like I said, I'm not going to dump this one on Aaron Judge. A lot of Yankees fans do that just as a natural reaction. But like I said, he hit 600 in this series. What do you want from the guy? Have anybody else do anything, and maybe this isn't the conversation. Aaron Judge wasn't to blame this time. But Vladdy hung right with him, hit for more power, had more opportunistic at-bats, cashing guys in. Vladdy was incredible. Kirky had big moments. Look, it's just... And all of a sudden, you forget a couple of days ago what Gausman was doing and Savage was doing. It feels like a week and a half ago. It was literally Saturday and Sunday. Just wild that the Blue Jays are moving on. And I think there was some fans who, as much fun as this season was, still had anxiety that, like, this isn't real. These guys are paper tigers. And when the pressure gets turned on in the playoffs, they're going to fold, and the Yankees will emerge with their big power bats and their, I was going to say expensive payroll. We have an expensive payroll, so the days of playing that card are probably over. But the Jays come out and dominate games 1 and 2, and it sort of puts all those concerns at ease, and they get punched in the face in game 3. And all those concerns come rushing back. Oh, my God, we have a bullpen day. And then, oh, my God, if it's game 5, you're going to have to face Max Fried again. And you forget that you just kicked the crap out of him. Well, we're not going to kick the crap out of him twice. He's probably going to dominate us in game 5. And, I mean, that option was on the table. But this was always a good team. It has been since May. And at the end of the day, there they are at Yankee Stadium, jumping up and down and celebrating, and Vladdy's got tears in his eyes, and John Schneider is giving a locker room speech for the ages.
Every single one of you, fucking bullpen game, Nathan Lucas, Miles Straw, all you motherfuckers, it takes everybody every day. Start spreading the news, bitches. We're going!
And Yankee Stadium is silent. It's just the sound of 30 grown men hooting and hollering in the middle of a field, and they've shut up 50,000 New Yorkers. Not an easy job, but an incredibly enjoyable one when you're successful at it. And just to watch the way this played out over the course of the evening, how happy people were, I was absolutely amongst them. You follow a baseball team all year long. Look, I know we sit here and Rob's a Sens guy and I'm a Leaf guy, and you're a whatever guy you are listening to this. There's something about the Jays throughout the summer, and they're with you every day. Like, I am here, I'm at the cottage, I'm doing whatever else. Somewhere along the way, the radio comes on, the TV down by the water comes on. You know, I've got the game on the iPad here in the studio while I'm doing some editing. They're with you all year. And you could feel it building all summer, as it always does in baseball. When the team is good, the more casual fans jump on. And it's not said in condescension. Casual fans are awesome. Casual fans are great. Some people, believe it or not, don't have time to watch 162 baseball games per year. Some people have a life. Power to you. Somebody let me know what that's like. And as it grows like a snowball, you pick up a couple more each week, each month. As oh man, the Jays are still in first. Oh man, the Jays just beat the hell out of the Yankees on Canada Day. This is fun. Look at these guys. And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And once the playoffs arrive, this is a nationwide thing. They were showing at the Leaf game on Wednesday night, the home opener, that in between whistles or on commercial breaks, they were replaying on the big screen at center ice big plays in the Jays game from Yankee Stadium. And there's a video making its way around on Twitter of coming out of the break, having just been shown the Nathan Lucas single to make it 4-1. And the entire arena, while the Leafs and Habs are playing, an original 6 matchup on the opening night of NHL season. This huge eruption from the fans when the score goes up on the screen, and then this "Let's Go Blue Jays" chant. And I think the coolest one I saw, Chris Johnston posted that 45 minutes after the Leaf game had ended, there are still, I don't want to overstate it, a couple thousand fans in the building. Not everybody stayed, but the game has been put up on the center ice clock, and people are watching it like they were at home. Like, a lot of people be like, I got a 30-minute bus ride or subway or GO train thing. Or some people just like, this is kind of cool. Like, they're letting us stay. We're going to watch it here in a crowd. It's a neat experience. And the video is making its way around. It's Chris Johnston, like I said, who shot it from the press box, of all these fans still in the building 45 minutes after the hockey game has ended, as Jeff Hoffman gets the final out. And this big cheer goes up. These are the sorts of things that only baseball does. And maybe I'm being unfair about that. Like, if we think back about the 2019 run for the Raptors, we were seeing the different Jurassic Parks pop up around Canada. That was cool. But it takes some time, and the Jays have been around a lot longer than the Raptors. And baseball is just one of those sports that grabs everybody as you go, like I said. So there's so many of these moments. This thing was interrupted, or this junior hockey game gave the score update, and this happened. And people who you know, like Canadian celebrities who aren't big sports fans, but are all in right now watching the Blue Jays beat the New York goddamn Yankees. It's been a really fun 24 hours. It was hard. Our buddy the Zoobs, he tweeted out, I think, how we were all feeling, about an hour after the game. He's like, I could just scroll all night, right? Different people's takes, different people's quotes, different videos from the party, Yankee fans crashing out. It was so much fun. And Thursday was no less fun. Just enjoying the moment. And you get to do that for a day or two. Because come Sunday, you'll be every bit as neurotic as you were on Wednesday. Whatever your resting heart rate is during these games, some people, like I said, are a little more casual about it. Some people are living and dying with every pitching change or every foul ball. If that was you throughout this last couple of days against the Yankees, it only goes up from here. Like, yeah, the next team you're playing isn't the Yankees, but you are another round deeper. And so I don't know what you do from here, right? And mainly on the pitching side of things. You're not worried about your lineup, although Bo Bichette was making some noise on Wednesday night, saying, I've made some big strides here in the last few days. I might be ready by Sunday, which would be a massive lift to the team. But I can't imagine, after this defense-first series we just watched, that he's going in at short for Jimenez. Can he run? Can he field? And if not, I guess he becomes your DH. You ask George Springer to go play the field, which he can do. But now, can you have both Springer? Like, where does Santander fit in? And, like, he didn't have a ton of power in this series like they put him on the roster to do against the Yankees, but he had some big at-bats throughout the whole thing. I know a lot of us are focused on Wednesday's game where he had some long at-bats against Schlittler and, like, really forced him to work, and that was really encouraging. You have to have it. You got to get that pitch count up, and Santander did that. But if you've got Bo at DH and George Springer in the outfield, can you afford to keep Santander around? There are other guys that you'd prefer to knock off the roster. Like, maybe it's an IKF, right? But those are different utilities. You're never going to, like, you can put IKF at second or third or whatever you need to do. You're never going to do that with Santander. It gets really complicated if Bo's coming back in terms of who you want to take off the roster. But my point being, before I ended up on this little fucking tangent, was the pitching. You could get through a best 3 out of 5 series with the days off with basically just 3 guys. Bieber wasn't great in his start, but he's getting another start. They have enough faith in him, enough experience. Like, you need him, and they're going to count on him again, and I would expect he'll be better. Gosman and Yasavage will be there again. But you need somebody else. I personally would lean towards Bassett. You also have Lauer, who has, like we said, I don't know if you want to schedule another bullpen game. Why not? I guess worked just fine. Got you by the Yankees. Go ahead, throw another bullpen game in the ALCS if you want to. But you're going to need at least one more pitcher and maybe 2. So you hope Bassett's healthy, coming off his injury. And then I don't know how you feel or how you feel about Max Scherzer. Andrew Stoughton, in his most recent piece at thebatflip.ca on Thursday afternoon, I think put this correctly when he said, if Max Scherzer's name wasn't Max Scherzer and you just looked at the numbers this year, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And maybe he's right, you wouldn't. But his name is Max Scherzer, and he does have this history. Coming down the stretch in the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season, it sure didn't look like he had much left in the tank, and now he's been off for a couple of weeks. But maybe he's got that one magical start left in him. I don't know. That's a risk. That'll be really interesting to see when they have to enter their roster for this round on Sunday afternoon. Who's on it? Both on the lineup side of things, if Bo's good to go. And, like, you have to decide, okay, Bo's not ready for Sunday, but he will be ready by game 3. Is that enough? Do you put him on and knock somebody else off of it? If you're not sure he'll be ready until a potential game 5, now it's probably not worth it. Even though, you know, you get to these tighter games in game 6 and you're like, fuck, I wish I had Bo right now. But how up to speed is he going to be anyway? Like, all of these things go into this. And this is the type of stuff that makes October baseball so much fun. Who's coming on the roster? Who's getting knocked off the roster for these guys? All of this will break over the course of the weekend. And we will talk to Joshua Howsam about all of it on Saturday. I've been babbling here, as is often the case, for a little longer than I planned to. I was going to talk a little about the Leaf game, but I didn't watch it. I think this is the first time in probably 20 years I didn't see a single second of the first game of the year for my favorite hockey team. Now, the next day, I went back and I watched the extended highlights, the 8-minute pack or whatever the Sportsnet puts together. But you don't get a feel for the game. You're only seeing the ups and downs, right? You're not seeing the flow. You're not seeing how crisp everybody looks and this and that. And I haven't yet seen what's happened between the Senators and the Lightning at this time I sit here and record this. But, man, it's, like I said, been 20 years since I haven't seen the start of the NHL season. There was just no way I was checking out on that Jays game, even for a minute. Not even missing a half inning. It was just too tense. October baseball, man. There's just something about it. So, I don't know. In summation, I heard the Leafs look sloppy, but got enough to get it done. And I heard Jordan Spence was a healthy scratch for some reason for the Sens after going out and acquiring him. That's an odd choice to me. But hey, by the time you're all hearing this, maybe Nick Mattampalo had 3 points in his stead, and I look silly. So I doubt it from your third pair right defenseman on any team, but you never know. Let's wrap it up here. We will be back on Saturday with Joshua Howsam, and then on Tuesday with Steve Bunda. And maybe, we'll see how the weekend goes. Perhaps I pop in for another solo episode between those. But that's to be determined, and I just wanted to give you guys a layout of what's to come. So let's put this one to bed. Hope you all have, one way or another, whether you're here with us over the course of the weekend or not, a fantastic Thanksgiving. My name is Matt Robinson. Thank you for listening to this one, and we'll catch you later.
That's it. I cannot work under these conditions. If anybody wants me, I'll be downstairs at McDougal's. Call the weekend guy. I don't care.